Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist or on Twitter as @PractGuitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Hello, Jim.
Hello, David.
Welcome back.
Well, thank you.
People have responded really well to our co-host last week.
Yeah, that's great.
I have to say, I have had several people reach out to me and tell me what a great episode it was.
Yep.
And it was off the cuff, and it was hell on earth to try and get it done, because we literally did the episode like 6 times. It was ridiculous.
So what happened?
So mics were cutting out. I had a couple bad cables that they got tossed in the garbage as part of the episode. And then the first night we did it, Cubase wasn't tracking both channels, and my daughter jumped on the mic while we were doing it, and that's when we decided we were going to have her on the next night. So we went to go re-record, and then we had like a couple false starts. One of them we got like 25 minutes in. So yeah, before it was all said and done, it was about we did about 6 hours worth of work to get a 1 hour episode. It was pretty ridiculous.
Wow.
But everybody had good fun doing it. So, and actually the last take was probably the second best take of the whole lot. The first take was, because it's spontaneous and it's always good.
Right.
But yeah, no, that was fun. Like, I really enjoyed doing that. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. But yeah. I'm glad that you liked it as well.
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
So, happy to have been able to free up some time for you. I know we don't do vacations, so not from the show. So
no, and this is the first time that that kind of thing happened. I'm thinking about taking tomorrow off from work just to freaking take a vacation. So for those who may be interested, I traveled to upstate New York. And when I say upstate New York, I'm not talking about like the New York City person talks about it. When they say upstate New York, they mean Poughkeepsie. And I was up in Ticonderoga, where there's still a lot of places don't have cable, much less high-speed internet. And so my network was spotty. And matter of fact, there's a lot of my travel that had zero internet and of any kind. No cell service, no nothing. It's definitely the boonies up there still.
Well, what kills me now is like when you travel, it used to be that the hotels would provide free Wi-Fi. It was always garbage Wi-Fi, but at least it was free. Like all the hotels I've stayed in the last couple of years, then we should pay extra.
I know, right?
I'm like, this is nuts.
And I didn't have I didn't stay in hotels. I stayed at my mother's, my father-in-law's, my my wife's house. It was
those people you rely on,
right? Those people that are family, because I was visiting my children, and yeah, lots of fun.
Did you get to play any guitar?
No, I took one. Yeah. I took a practice amp and I took a guitar. But the truth is that we were, I was visiting family and everything, which sucks because my fingers, I can feel it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Literally feel the lack of, that muscle in your fingers that starts to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel it too. Like if I don't, even for a day,
Yeah. So then the day before I was coming back, I get a phone call from one of my co-workers, And as I told you beforehand, my team leader's wife had a brain aneurysm. They were on vacation in Alaska. They were up in Anchorage on a cruise. And I'm not sure about all the details, but all I know is that she's in the hospital. Luckily, a prime surgeon was up there. It just happened to be in Anchorage for I don't know what reason.
The condition you told me, I've had people in my family actually pass from that.
So. Yeah, so she's able to move some fingers and do little things, but they're very family oriented people. They're very and all the family is down here, so I'm covering for him at work so that he doesn't have anything to worry about missing here. But it's yeah.
Sounds like
And she's the kind of person everybody likes her because they invite us to everything, they do everything, and they like to do games and cookouts. And so prayers are with her right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see, what did I do this weekend? I went out to Dan Kish's house.
I do have to tell you about some musical endeavors that I had.
Oh, okay.
So obviously I went to a 4th of July celebration. And as most 4th of July celebrations, they had a live band. And I don't want to name the band, but so the sound was awful. You could only hear the guitars if you stood in front. And this place was a 360.
So they were super directional. Yeah.
Right. So they should have had, now there was no excuse for it because they were using helixes. So instead
so it's all PA problems at that point.
Yep. Instead of pointing like, all right, let's offset some PA, you're going to need at least, 3, if not 4 PA speakers in various directions. Right. Nope. Just pointed it towards the street. The guy, his ego could not be surmounted by anything. So he kept mentioning that his latest CD had something to do with Luke Bryan's recording team. And every time he turned around, he mentioned Luke Bryan. And I wanted to yell, "Did you mention Luke Bryan?" So after he said it like 14 times during this thing.
Yeah, I think we've all seen somebody like that before.
Yeah, he was very dime dropping. And I'd known about him in the past. His tellies had been worked on by the same guy that did he put the B-benders in Brad Paisley's tellies. Okay. And he's always bragging about that. That was on the side. So, but anyway, I wanted to talk to the Helix. So the Helix, it felt lifeless in the PA. It felt like there was no real reaction. And it didn't, it was very compressed and hard, like you were listening to a record of a guitar being played, not a guitar being played. It didn't have the punch. And so it lacked that, live feel. It really did.
I wouldn't fault the Helix for that, first off. I would say
probably their settings.
Well, it's settings, it's how good's the PA.
Right.
You're obviously talking about, a 360 venue, like with crap PA, like pointed at the street where there's nothing covering the sides or behind. And it just sounds to me like it probably underpowered, number one. Number two is probably crap settings. It's probably the same stuff he was using in the studio and didn't bother to tweak them for live. Because I've seen locally some people playing with the Helix lately, and none of them have been like spectacular sounding, but like going to see, a Paul Gilbert or something like that. But none of them have been awful either. It was like, yeah, you can, it's a Helix kind of deal, and it's not a big deal because what they're doing or whatever. But it's just like, well, it's it's an emulation. That's fine.
Right.
It would be no different than if you were to take an amplifier, plug it into a Palmer DI, and run it out the board. Just kind of a flat sounding thing, So yeah, and I think that's the hazard of doing any of that silent stage stuff. That's part of the reason why I dumped the Helix is because no built-in power amp, and I would want to drive a cabinet with it and ignore cabinet emulation for being on stage because I know that that's part of part of the sound of guitar is like having a wash of sound on stage somewhere. Now, does that mean that, I'm going to make every sound guy happy? Does that mean that I can get certain gigs? Hell no. I mean, that's the complete opposite, but that's my preference. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm still slinging amps, dude. Like I've got, so I got the Kemper, but I bought the amp version, and I bought, I have a Mark 525, and I'm completely happy slinging amps. Like I don't really see a reason to go silent stage until I get a situation where somebody says, "Hey, you got to go silent," and then I'll just take the Kemper and say, "Here's my direct outs, enjoy."
Yeah.
But I haven't done a whole lot of direct with the Kemper yet. I mean, I've got SPDIF cables. I've run it into my interface. It does sound really good through these JBL monitors I bought, but I mean, it's not. It's not a real amp. I mean, even through monitors, it sounds like a recorded amp. It does sound a lot less recorded than the Helix in the sense that it's not as compressed. Like it's not as. It's not compression. Okay, I want to back away from that.
Yeah.
It's like this tonal focus thing that happens with the Helix because it doesn't get as complicated and complex as your guitar breaks up through a tube amp. And so because of that, like I can pick it out of a lineup now. And that's what's really kind of funny about it. It's like, when I had one, I was like, oh, I couldn't tell the difference. But now having moved to, the Kemper and just the Mark V, like I could definitely tell the difference. It's really obvious actually. But it has to do with the fact that I've compared them now and that I can pluck it out of the air. I know people are like, oh, well, so-and-so can't tell the difference. No, the audience can't tell the difference for sure, but I can. And I'm the one I'm trying to impress. Because let's face it, nobody cares about my music anyway. So
Right.
I might as well have fun doing it. So I'm happy I made the switch. So I went to Kish's house this weekend. I took the Kemper. And the Kemper performed pretty well in that situation. It was quiet. It was quiet enough that we could, have a conversation while we were playing, and it sounded pretty good. Some of the profiles sounded better than others, and I think a lot of that had to do with tweaking. And then the next day, I went to Good Time, and we put it on a 2x12 vertical recto cab, and we cranked it up a little bit, and we got it going, and we were running Marshall patches and stuff, and it sounded great. And part of that was because we were sitting there going through it, and I think we were both impressed, Jeff and I. We were both impressed with it, but then I was like, something's wrong here. Something's not adding up. So I started tweaking the settings, and I went into the system settings, and I found that I had actually put the pad on for the input, turned the pad off, and then it just came alive, and it was way better than I had anticipated, and I just knocked my socks off at that point.
Right.
Is it? And I told with Jeff and I kind of had this discussion yesterday. It's like, is it as good as a tube amp? No, I mean it is. It is and it isn't. Like I think you're still crippled by a couple of things. Number one, you're stuck with not being if you push the cab loud, it's going to sound good, right? That's your cab volume largely determines if you're using like a guitar cabinet. Largely determines what sounds you're going to get out of the Kemper. For the sounds I go for, I'm going to need to push my cabs just as hard as I would a tube amp. However, what the Kemper gives me is the flexibility to be able to turn down and at least enjoy it.
Right.
So it's nice. I've been profiling my amps, which you've been gone while this is going on, so I probably should cover all that too.
Oh, it's crazy.
The profiling process is loud. It is obnoxious. It's fun.
I love it.
It requires a lot of gear. Like you have to have extra cables and microphones, and if you're going to use multiple microphones, you have to have a mixer, and the additional cables needed to do that. And then you got to kind of get into the process of how it works, and you almost have to like ruin a couple, and then all of a sudden it all clicks, and you're like, oh, I know what this does now, and like then I can start. I can start actually making good profiles. And we were putting my profiles up against some of the professional ones, and they're not bad. Like they're decent.
Right.
You could definitely take your rig, put a microphone in front of it, tweak the EQ and the Kempers it's going in, and get a reasonable sound. The challenge, of course, is being able to monitor it while you're doing it. So you got to use headphones. Like that was my big thing. And I don't really have these are closed back headphones. I really wouldn't want to be mixing with these, but it was enough that I could get an accurate representation of what it was going to sound like on the other end. So,
Right.
But I made patches of the Mark V. If anybody's interested in them, profiles, by the way, if anybody's interested in them, I'll put them up in the group, or I'll put them in the rig exchange. So I don't plan on selling these. They're not good enough for that. But I'm actually considering doing some profiles and selling them. You know, we know enough people, Robert Jackson and others, that we could conceivably like put together some pretty interesting profiles and stuff. Like I could do his Panamas and stuff like that, and we could sell them and raise proceeds for, you know, charity or something.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
I was kind of thinking about it. But yeah, no, it's a cool thing to do. Like it's a hobby thing. If you're really into amplifiers, I think the Kemper is probably the best choice for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I found that the effects, like I said in the original, like when I got back from Gearfest, the effects in there are fine. The dry pedals suck, but look, you can get past that. The reverbs, delays are excellent. Today I actually just reset the factory profiles and got a whole bunch of new reverbs available to me, which I didn't realize that I didn't have.
Nice.
And so really, from my understanding, it's like the Kemper has like 5 reverbs in it, right? But they're really, really flexible reverbs, and they all sort of do different things. 5 or 6 reverbs. And so, and then there's like a legacy reverb, which covers all the bases of the previous reverb models. So if you have like old profiles that were using the original reverbs, when you load those profiles now, it'll use what they call legacy verb, which allows you to access all those old sounds, which is kind of cool. They
nice.
left those in place so that it didn't break when you would move forward.
Right. When you move forward, you didn't lose what you liked.
Well, Christoph Kemper, I was reading an interview with Christoph, or I'm not reading, I was watching an interview with Christoph Kemper today, and that was one of the things he brought up was like, look, even if we were to replace the hardware, everything that we do now would be backwards compatible in the new hardware. And he said, I've been, you know, he runs the Virus synthesizer company, and he's like, we have backwards compatibility going back to 1997.
Wow.
Product version 1. And it's a hardware product too, so he knows like about emulation and all that, and the fact that, you know, they would have to build that into the product going forward. And I think that's part of the reason why we haven't seen a Kemper 2 is that they haven't outlived the hardware.
That's crazy, right? I mean, it's good.
Well, it just says so. He's been in the game since 1997. He knows how to squeeze every last ounce out of what he's got, and he's done a very good job of it, because they've been running that Virus synthesizer product since 97, and they've only had 4 hardware revisions. So what's that? A hardware revision every like 7 years, 8 years? And there's no sign of a new Kemper showing up. I mean, they're still supporting this guy. There's going to be an editor coming out, the Kemper cab and speakers. And I've heard rumblings that there's a version 7 firmware on the loose somewhere that they're working on it. So
you know, it's good that what these companies should do is not announce upcoming software, because you can see like constantly in any of these things, it's like, okay, it's spring. Where's our it's the first day of spring, pal. You know, or okay, where's our stuff?
I'm okay if they mention, hey, we're working on new features, and kind of give like a sneak peek of what those features are. Don't attach a date to it. Don't attach a timeline to it. Just be like, they'll be out when they're finalized.
Yeah. The problem with people is once you give them an expectation.
Yeah. Well, but the problem is it's like line 6, right? Because that's what we're talking about. Line 6 has been 2.8 is coming. Since what, Winter NAMM, I think. And they said spring, right? So we're obviously we're into July now. Yeah. So
we're past spring.
The fans, the Helix people are like, where are my updates? And they're starting to get frustrated. First off, crybabies, number 1. And I'm not saying that because I don't agree with them. Look, line 6 should have announced a date. and at least delivered some features at that time. And if they had to do a 2.7.9 update and a 2.8 update, then they could have done that. But my gripe is that they're, oh, well, we don't have updates. Look what Fractal does to their people. Like, they announced the FM3 back in March, April?
Yeah.
And there hasn't been a word about when that thing's going to show up. People are on the list to get them, right? Some people have prepaid because I think they prepaid because they were on the list for the AX8. And the AX8 got canceled because they were bringing the FM3 out. So these people have been waiting for like 4 months now. Some of those people, the AX8 people, might have been waiting 7 months or 8 months.
Yep.
Think about that for a minute. And you're complaining about a software update you get for free?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you get it when you get it,
Yep.
I don't complain about, like, there's some Kemper updates that, are allegedly, like the editor. I see a post every day in the KPA forum. Somebody going, where's my editor? I thought the editor was supposed to be out because he showed it at NAMM.
Oh, yeah, they're going.
I think he showed it at Winter NAMM.
They did. They showed it at Winter NAMM. So they haven't released that new editor.
Yeah, it's in beta. I mean, you can get it. But I don't want to run beta firmware because I will say this: the Kemper beta firmware is truly beta. Like you install their reverbs and like you couldn't turn them off and like which is fine. Like okay, and that's that's for the hardcore group of users that really want to see those features and like try them out. And you can always roll back to the older firmware. Right. So I get it. Like that's what that's for. My problem with Line 6 and the way they've handled things is that's a big company. Okay. Yeah. I know it's not technically a big company, but for our industry, that's a big company, right? They get a lot of money behind them. They have more employees than say like Boss of America, for example, Roland US, or they're probably on par with like Roland, but like they definitely have more than somebody like Brian Wampler who meets demand
who probably has 12 people in the company.
I guess it's not a really. I mean, it's not a good barometer though because he doesn't do software kind of thing. But my point is that they got enough money behind them. This shouldn't have happened. Okay, right. And I have seen several things go on with that company that like I've kind of paused and I've gone, you've got a lot more money than the other guys. Like, what is your deal?
Well, we all know that sometimes software can take a turn.
Sure.
And the thing that should have happened, was that on your end?
Yeah, there's people banging on the window for my daughter.
Oh. So what they should have done is said, all right, look, we're having issues with X. We're delivering this as a full package or whatever. So we're going to need until the end of summer. We're probably going to have to push this. Instead of being, they're just quiet. They're like, quit your bitching. It'll come when it comes. Well, then don't make an announcement. Don't give people an expectation because that's when your fans, your user base, some of these improvements are really, really important to people who have various platforms, like being able to share a Helix patch with a person that does the Stomp or the Chicken FX.
Well, yes, and
I'm still thinking about getting a Stomp as like a what do you call it?
Like a open mic thing.
Open mic thing.
Yeah. So, a couple of things on that. There have been some features that were kind of like quietly told to certain people, and now have been kind of swept under the rug too. I heard tell that 2.8 was going to include support for 2 additional blocks in the HX Stomp.
Yep.
That's not happening.
Nope.
I have not seen it anywhere in the actual physical documentation, like on their website. Not physical, but their digital documentation on their website. Yeah. And I think that was one of those things that's like, yeah, but if we do that, so they probably could do it. I would bet they can, but if they were to do it, what would end up happening is that all the people that bought one are going to say, why didn't you just roll it out like this to begin with?
Well, I think the other side of that is that probably they were looking at putting 2 more in because some of the effects use more processing power than others. So they were like, okay, well, we can stick 2 more in, but you're going to have a max 8 on your processor. So
I heard it was a user interface issue,
was it? Well, there you go.
which makes it even worse because then it's like, well, then you basically released a product that was half baked. Is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes me wonder if they knew the FM3 was coming, and they were like, okay, we need to get this out there now.
Yep.
Because we need to have a toehold in the marketplace before they do. And I don't know why I don't know what would have driven that, but it was really funny that the HX Effects and the HX Stomp came out that close together. They were within a year.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking when the HX Stomp was announced, like, yeah, wishful thinking. They brought out the effects for the inexpensive crowd that already had amplifiers. And I was kind of the first time I saw it, I was kind of like taken aback. It's like, no, they actually did it. But then I read like, 6 blocks or whatever it is, and I honestly, like, that's not enough processing power for me, for 1 amp model, really. Like,
No, when you think about it, it is literally what I'm thinking about getting for, and that is to go to an open mic. You can throw it down. You've got a couple of effects.
it's
and
a
an amp model.
It's a Swiss Army knife thing. Like, you can put it on your board and you can do effects with it, or
Right.
if you have to go direct, you could set it up to be an amp simulator, or if you wanted to drive like a clean tube amp, or through the FX return or something like that. Like, it gives you a bunch of different options. It's definitely a pedal. Like, if I had a board, I probably would have been like, how am I going to make this work? Because I would have been more interested in it. But I just like, if for the amount of money it is, right? So it's like I think it's 600.
Yeah.
It's $599.
599. Yeah.
I would be hard pressed to do that versus a used LT. And they've got so many products at so many different price points. They're actually competing with themselves on the used market now, which is kind of strange when you think about it.
Yeah. The used LT would put you at probably $800, $700.
Yeah, 700, 800. Yeah, I mean,
you're easily within the price point to be able to go, you know what? I'll just get, like you said, a used LT. Screw it.
Right, because then you get full functionality except for loops.
Exactly.
You get more loops than you're going to get in the Stomp. I mean, it's a win-win. Even if you buy the new one, I mean, it's only 500 more, which that's a lot of money for most folks. But I could see somebody who's looking at these products really hard, and if you're going to save up $599 to get a Stomp, like another $400 to get the big guy, isn't that big a stretch.
That's right. It's not.
And I say 400 because we know we can get discounts and deals, and you get the 10% back gift card from Sweetwater, and make it work.
That's right.
So
or you take a piece of crap to Guitar Center and you trade it in for it.
Yeah, you get your taxes off,
and you get your 10%.
Yeah. In my neighborhood, it's taxes off. That's basically all they give you.
Yeah,
it is 10%, but it's like it's basically just covers the tax. Like,
it's a little bit better than that here.
Yeah,
a little.
Yeah, we were talking about. They're like, well, but you only pay taxes on the value minus the 10%, and I'm like, yes, but that's still going to be around 10% tax. Like, it's going to be like 1% less.
Yeah.
So really, you're giving me a 1% discount. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see. Like I said, I can see. Here's the thing: if I'm going to go to an open mic, I guess it's at that point it's a personal decision of whether or not you want to. You go to the open mic. Do you want to have something really small, like the Stomp, or are you okay with having something bigger, like the LT?
I would probably go with the Fly Rig.
Yeah. And so, what did you got to play with the Fly Rig in person, the new one?
Yeah,
I haven't played with the new one, so
I think I even got to try the Paul Landers one.
Was that which
I
one?
tried a lot of crap at Gearfest.
Yeah.
The Paul Landers
sat down and so you got to sit with Nick Bongers and play his.
Briefly. I didn't play through his whole lot, but I didn't need to. Like, I kind of know what it's about, And I got to see him at Gearfest and actually played him on the floor there.
Yeah.
The Fly Rig 2, which is what he has, is fine for probably 80% of people. It's not so. None of those three devices are as good as, hey, here's an amplifier in a cabinet, or here's a really high quality modeling device. And I would say, like for, I hate to say it, even Fractal or Kemper style modeling device. But it's definitely for like $300. I mean, for an open mic thing, throwing your gig bag, like it's perfect. It's way better than the Stomp for that. And I say that because there's less to go wrong. Number one, you're not relying on direct out. Okay.
Right.
But you have that as an option,
Yep.
and it sounds good. And it's kind of idiot proof. There's like nothing on it to really mess it up.
Well, idiot proof is me.
So I'm because when you go like we've all been to open mic, right? Like you throw your stuff on the floor, you got about a minute and a half, tune up, and make sure everything's working properly, and then you're ready to go. And if you're not done there, people start looking at you funny. Which is, take your time. I do it. I don't care. Like, but I know some people get really, weird about that. I would be, here I am, totally comfortable just throwing my Kemper in a road case and going to an open mic and just like throwing it on the floor and be like, all right, here we go. And there's going to be a couple cables I have to run for that and everything, but it'll work and it'll sound good. So I'm not complaining.
Right.
So I don't know. For me, like, I think the fly rig makes a lot more sense because it's cheaper. Number one, it's a good rig.
$300.
If you don't have any sort of backup for your gear and you're playing out, it's an adequate backup. I mean, I don't. So I heard people recording with it online. I do not think it's recording quality capable. I really don't. But I think, if you're playing a gig and you just want to throw it on the floor and like your gig is more about presentation, and I honestly don't think the crowd really cares about sound quality as much as people think they do. I think it's more than adequate, frankly, for the money. The things are roadworthy. They're solid. You can throw them in a gig bag.
It was so small. I saw.
Yeah, when you first see it, you're like, that's way smaller than I thought it was. No, it's tiny.
I thought it would be about like the size.
Each section is the size of a shoe.
Yeah, it's only like this big.
Yeah, it's
the whole thing,
but like a foot wide.
Yeah,
and like 2 or 3 inches tall.
Yep, that's it.
No depth to it.
XLR out, the tuner. How was the tuner? Was it relatively accurate?
It seemed like it was. It seemed like it was okay. Tuner's a tuner for that kind of price, like in a built-in effect. It was higher quality than I anticipated it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say it's probably as accurate as TU2. I'm a big fan of the TU3, and actually, Jim, I don't know that I've brought this up, but I have this guy now.
Ooh,
I have the Wazacraft TU3 now.
You son of a bitch!
I bought it at GearFest, so
yeah.
But I bought it because it's true bypass switchable, so I can use it with my fuzz.
Oh, nice! Yeah, that's right.
So,
your germanium.
Yeah. So that's why I picked it up because I'm like, oh well, for an extra $30, I can use it with that, so it's fine. I really, really like the TU series of products anyway.
Yeah, I use the TU3.
Dan Kish has my white TU3. Sold it to him, so he's he's actually setting up the red unicorn, I believe, as we speak. So that's a whole other ball of wax.
Are you chop tuning it? Set it up for like
no. No, he's just like getting it playable because I took it out of the case and I was going to do some track. Actually, I was going to do some tracks for work. And I set it up like just like 10 seconds before I pressed go on the recording, and it was buzzing all over the place and it was a mess. So I'm like, the humidity must have just been hell on it this winter. I'm like, I'll have to take it and get it set up or something. And it turns out like there were 2 high frets. The nut I'm assuming has come unglued in the center, and the nut slot was really unclean anyway, and that's just
right.
A Shingze, right? A good time had done a setup, and they'd actually replaced the nut on it, but I can't imagine that it didn't need to be cleaned out more because the thing was a disaster. Like I saw that nut and I couldn't stop laughing every time I looked at it. It was laughable. It was really bad. One of the worst quality things I've ever seen. So, on that note, I got to go to Kish's, and he's a value gear nut, so he's got like some cool stuff that's really inexpensive. And He's
was
got a pair
looking
of
forward
Harley
to you
Benton's
discussing
there.
this. Yeah.
He has a pair of Harley Benton's there. So I guess like the way I want to preface this is bear in mind that everything I say here is going to be focusing on the fact that those guitars are like $190. They're
Right.
not expensive.
Right. So they're the price of an Affinity Strat or an Affinity, because those things have gone up. They're about $180.
Oh, I thought the Affinities were like $230 now, and that the Bullets were like $180.
Oh, it might be. I don't know. I think the Affinities are either way.
These are the lowest of the low, right? Like, so these are the guitars you buy if you can't afford like anything with the name brand on it. Okay, which is fine. Like, so I want to preface that because I'm going to say some really positive things, but I want to make it very clear to our listeners that I'm not saying that this is as good as a Gibson. I'm not saying that this is as good as your typical run of the mill like $700 Strat or your typical Kiesel or any of that. Any of the like the professional I would consider like a professional or even top end professional stuff. So the guitars weren't made of plywood, number one. They were made of multi-piece bodies. They had now Dan had set them up, so they played decently. The electronics felt solid. I don't know long term what that's going to mean, whether they're going to last, and that's always that's always like the big gotcha is like you don't really know until you wear them out kind of deal. He had redone the tuners on at least one of them, I think both. One of them had Grovers on it. And that was just because they weren't holding tune. But other than that, I mean, they were functional. Like they played really well. They'd been set up, of course. The hardware was actually better than what was on the Shengzai for the I think both guitars were stop tail bridges because one was like the Les Paul copy they do, and then the other one was the SG copy, and they both had like kind of an ABR style tailpiece and stop bar and all that. So that's a plus automatically because the one I got, the Shengzai, has the stupid retainer spring. And that is the dumbest thing that, like, if you're going to make low quality Chinese garbage hardware, the bridge is the easiest thing to get right. I mean, just to do the shape of it. But the second you put one of those retainer springs on there, it's just going to be a pain in the ass. Like it's going to be a problem because they can't do it right. It's those springs, they vibrate. And if you don't like bend them so that they, hit the intonation screws properly and stuff, like they're just a nightmare to deal with. And that's been the problem with my Shengzai. I probably am actually going to replace the bridge on that eventually. He bought one of them was a factory second, so he got it on a deal. And actually the paint flaws weren't worse than what the Shengzai was, which was pretty impressive. Considering the Shengzai has a lot of like fit and finish issues. And the other one looked pretty good. Like it had been finished pretty well. I mean, there were some areas where it'd gone over the binding and stuff, but nothing you like would. Case in point, right? So these are two set neck guitars available for under $200. Think about that for a minute. You're gonna have fit and finish flaws. You're going to. You're gonna have a little bit substandard hardware. You're gonna have substandard electronics. The pickups, they were not my favorite. I would characterize them as being overly bright, and not much guts to them. Like not a lot of low mids and not a lot of lows. But I would rather them have too much than too little because I can always dial out too much. I can't dial in what isn't there.
Too little. That's right.
So from that perspective, like they weren't terrible. You could get by with them. Like if somebody was just starting out with guitar, or they were, they were going through some family situation or something, and they needed to buy a guitar and they couldn't afford much. Like it would be perfect because they can grow with you. You can upgrade them and stuff. But I did post a video in the group, and I want to give some context to that. So Rob Chapman went to Toman and he bought a Harley Benton, and then they put $700 worth of mods on it.
Yeah, 700 pounds worth of mods. Yep.
Now 700 pounds, which is, I think the pound is actually less than $1 right now. It
might be
because of Brexit. So I looked it up the other day, and I think they were like roughly equivalent because I bought some profiles from England actually. I bought the Victory profiles, which we'll talk about that too. So he has these 2 Harley Bentons, or actually Chapman has the Harley Benton. He puts 700 pounds with it, and they compare it to a Les Paul Standard, no, the Studio, right? Which is roughly the same price, Gibson range thing. Once you compare it, once you add the mods and all to it. So here's the funny part. I thought, listening to the video, I thought the Harley Benton sounded pretty good, and then I heard the Studio, and it was really clear that the wood gave it a much smokier sound, which to my ears was like way more what I would expect for $700. Like a way more complex upper tonal thing was going on there that was like there was some different harmonics and stuff coming out. And it may just have been like he had a bad Harley Benton that they put a bunch of money into, and then like they had a good, Les Paul Studio or something like that. But like they were not roughly equivalent. Let's put it that way. And it may just been luck of the draw, but I put that video up because I was kind of thinking like, yeah, you can grow with a guitar, but you're still limited to like the basic pieces, what it has in it that it comes with. So I would say I don't think either of those guitars were like plywood. But there was a plywood guitar that Kish had. Well, we think it might be plywood. And that thing was smoking.
Really?
So he has a Harmony that's like probably 25 years old. And it might even be older. It might be from the 70s. This guitar has been put through the wash, man. Like, so he at one point shot it with a crossbow. So there's like a hole in it. And
on purpose?
Yeah, because like it was a junk guitar, and he was like, he was a young kid, and he was, oh, it would be funny if we shot a crossbow bolt through it. So it's got stickers on it, and it's got Mojo, and like I picked it up, and the neck was kind of glossy and stuff, and I was like, I'm not gonna like this. And then I started playing it, and I was like, whoa, like what's going on here? So he had it strung up, it had 11s on it. It was a meteor guitar to play. Like you had to muscle your way through it. But man, like it had ceramic pickups for sure. They were ceramic, and they were pretty low output. The neck pickup was like way lower than the bridge pickup, but I liked what was going on there. I just wish I had a little bit more of it. Like the volume had come up a little bit. So I suggested to him, I was like, man, look into a boost circuit. Right. You could get a 3 dB boost on this thing. Like this guitar would be rocking because it sounded great. The only thing was it had super small frets, and he was already talking about replacing the frets. So, and he's had his guitar forever. He's had it for probably as long as he's been playing, like 20 years or something. And I told him, I was like, I understand why you want to put money in this thing now because it like there's something about it. And of all the guitar, because he had some other stuff, he had the Raven, and he had this Jackson 7-string with a extended scale, which was a cool guitar. Actually, I think the guitar was like around $200, and it was like really good. And I was kind of enlightened, to find like some quality instruments for not a lot of money. And a lot of it had to do with the setup. Like he's put the work into making sure these guitars are playable and they're functional. I don't think you could buy a $200 guitar and be like completely enamored with it if you've been playing for 20 years. Because you've got 3 others that are great. You know what I mean? Like I have a USAS 500 right here. I have a Kiesel behind me. I have plethora of quality instruments around me at all times. Like I'm not gonna go into the store and be like, I need a Harley Benton right now.
Right.
Unless I want a project, and so projects are one thing, and I've done them. Like I've got the red unicorn, but I'm that Harley Benton Fusion. I would think about it. Yeah, it's like $300, stainless steel frets.
Yeah, the one we looked at online.
1 fret job, all it needs, and then as long as the neck is, reasonably true. Even if the neck's not true, you rip the frets out of it and true it. I mean, you got a Guthrie Govan model right there. That's basically what they are. So that kind of swings us back around to the Gibson thing, right? So lots of cheap guitars in the world right now. And I know Gibson is basically like backtracking on what they've said, and I'm not really following super close what's going on, but
So what? Yeah. So since I've been out of the loop, what exactly have I been talking
They apparently issued like some sort of apology statement, and now the word on the street is that they're going into collaboration mode. So
Well,
the intention is to
okay,
collaborate
so
with people.
yeah. So when I saw recently, I saw some people that were calling for folks to put tape over their Gibson logos, and I'm like,
That's silly.
that's not going to happen.
It's absolutely silly. Like,
Yeah.
okay, look, I don't care if you're Henry Ford or if you're Joe Blow in your garage building kit cars. If you're knocking off current Ford models, regardless of when it was designed, you're going to get sued, and
Right.
no one's going to care. Okay, that's what this is. Okay, so when you see these small builders, and I'm gonna name some names like Doug Cower and these other guys, whether you like them or not, okay, that's completely irrelevant to this argument. These guys are operating out of closets, okay, and they are doing precisely what Gibson was saying they were, which is knocking off their guitars.
Right.
Now, we can sit here and we can pretend all day long like, oh, well, the headstock's different or the control layout's different. But ultimately, they didn't come up with the concept, okay?
Right.
And you know what? In some cases, Gibson didn't come up with the concept either. But
Right.
those are all court cases that need to be settled by the courts. They're not for the court of public opinion to decide. Unfortunately, the court of public opinion obviously gets involved, especially when passions are in the realm, like with Gibson, Harley Davidson, and other companies.
Well, people want to see the big guy fall. They always want to see the big guy fail. And the fact of the matter is that there is no. There is no really, just like there is no original song, there is no original guitar.
Can I put a spin on this for everybody?
Yeah.
So they want to see the big guy fail. For any of our listeners who disagree with me, I'm up for debate. Like we can talk about it in the group. I have no problem having a conversation about this, and I'm not angry at you. I think that there's a part of this that people neglect, and that is Gibson isn't like this nameless, faceless corporation, right? You go to their booth at Sweetwater, and they have 3 of the guys that actually work there doing fine inlay work, winding pickups, and finishing and that kind of stuff, like custom paint, that kind of thing. Like they have those 3 guys there talking to you because they know you need to see that there is a person behind this. Because we demonized Henry Juskowitz, and we made that company Henry Juskowitz. We did not make that company the people who are actually doing the work. And that's the problem. It's very easy to demonize Walmart. But if you hurt Walmart, you're going to hurt the employees too. So stop and think for a minute. What would Doug Cower be doing if Doug Cower wasn't building guitars by himself in his garage or somebody else's garage or in that workshop that he pays for or whatever? Like, what would he be doing? He'd be working for somebody like Gibson or Dean or any of these other companies, right? So ultimately, like, we need to stay out of it. Buy the guitars you like. Don't worry about all the politics and drama and crap that's going on behind the scene, and just buy the stuff that's good. Because at the end of the day, that's what should survive, right? Well, electric guitar is by far and away not a mature instrument. We had the electric, because I don't consider it the same thing as the acoustic guitar or the classical guitar. This instrument's only been around 75 years, 80 years, in the current form, which is a solid body electric guitar, right? So, like, obviously there's other things. But my point is, this is not a mature instrument. And so the more you buy what works, the more mature it becomes, and the more likely that we'll see designs that actually look more and more similar, because guess what? Manufacturers will find out what works, and the playing will standardize and everything else. This is not a new process. It's done in a different way because we didn't have manufacturers before. But, when Stradivarius was designing violins, you'd think he was just copying somebody else's design.
Right.
Hate to break it to you, but he was. I mean, he was looking around at what everybody else was doing and going, this is what the demanding player of this time needs. And so I will produce this. And it just happened to be that it was the same as, now, not exactly the same, because obviously might have been putting blood in the finishes and everything else. But basically, like, feature-wise, it was the same as what other people were offering.
Yeah.
So just put a modern context on it. Don't pee on a company because you don't like what the CEO did. There's a lot more people in that company than that CEO. Look at me, I bought a Kiesel. You guys know what I think of him. So I put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, no kidding. That's that's easily probably one of the prime examples of a company that has a spokesperson, and it's Kiesel is, at least the guitar side, is, how do I say this? It's not that big. There's probably 40 people there, 35 people there.
Yeah, it's got to be under 40.
Yeah. And so it's not that huge of a company. And like you said, if you crap on Kiesel, the guy, you're crapping on those employees, and that's not, to me, that's not cool. Just my 2 cents, not cool.
Quick.
You're crapping on people that you don't know. You're trying to put the face of Jeff Kiesel behind it, but in all reality, it's all those people. And there's a lot of people who put their they want to make a fine quality instrument.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I want to put a fine point on some things I've been hearing about Kiesel too. I have a friend who I won't mention his name because I don't know whether he would want me to talk about this comment with regards to this, but he's been questioning Kiesel quality because he sees these people in the Kiesel group who are not happy with what they get. Now, I've been laughing and kind of quietly telling him, like, look at the people you're looking at before you start realizing, like, that they're right.
Right.
Stop for a second. Because when somebody goes to a company that makes build-to-order guitars, they do not make custom guitars. They do not make custom instruments. They do not.
Right.
They are build-to-order. Everyone needs to stop. That is a marketing term that they use. Their instruments are built to order. In other words, they have standard designs that you can modify. You can get modifications that are off the books if they're willing to do them for you. That is not a custom shop. A custom shop you go to and you can get whatever you want for however much you are willing to spend. Okay? Now, Kiesel will tell you in some cases they won't do things. And it happens more frequently than people care to mention, because I've had some conversation with some people asking specific questions, told no. So what you get is people are going to Kiesel thinking, oh, it's a custom shop, right? And they get some of the options they want, and they pay through the nose for them. And then they get this guitar, and they're not happy with it because it's not a true custom shop, okay? So when you call up Kiesel, you don't get a picture of the wood top that they're gonna make your guitar out of. You don't have that level of participation. Now, if I go to a true private builder, they'll literally send me a picture of the top they're going to build a guitar out of and be like, here, it's the top you want. Is this cool? And they have a selection of woods. It's like Paul Reed Smith Wood Library, right? But here's the difference in price. You go to Wood Library, you're talking $10,000 plus. Versus going to Kiesel, and you're talking $3,000. So who do you think you're going to get a better product from? Right? Like, exactly. and that's what it boils down to. You're expecting to get a $10,000 guitar for $3,000 because you've built it up in your mind. Is there an actual custom shop, honest to God custom shop, and that these custom shops are really not charging you what something's worth? Which they're not charging you what it's worth on the used market, because we see these $10,000 Wood Library PRSs sometimes going for $6,000. They're charging you the amount of labor and stuff that goes into the guitar. Like, people don't seem to realize I've had conversations with various people over the years. I'm going to build my guitar because I can build one myself, and it'll be better and it'll be cheaper than if I was to buy. Listen, no, will not. If you want the same quality woods that they're buying, like beyond furniture grade, that they're buying to put guitars together at Paul Reed Smith, for example, good luck. First off, you're going to have to find a place where you can buy it, which is not as easy as people think it is, because most of this wood gets dibs on by the guitar manufacturers from the start.
That's right. They've already been bought when the damn things, in other words,
I mean, not to mention the fact that you throw away more money in the wood shavings than you do actually use, which is what people don't seem to understand. when you buy a what do they call it? A 5A flame maple top. I think that's a 10 top.
Yep.
Is PRS term. When you buy those tops, they ground out most of that stuff with a router. You basically paid for the wood shavings that they don't give you.
Yeah.
I can't make it up. I mean, that's the truth. And so just keep that in mind. Like when you pay for a $3,000 guitar, you're probably paying $1,000 in wood, maybe $1,200 in wood.
Yep.
You know, I mean, the labor is there too, but with CNC and stuff, the labor is not as much as it used to be. It's mostly in your quality of materials. I mean, some of it's labor, but I mean, I would probably say probably 2/3 of your instrument cost are your electronics and your wood, and your finishing. And then everything else is just like, the hand labor to shape the neck and all those kinds of things. And it's expensive. It's intensive work. And it's a highly skilled work for sure. So just remember, there's a reason these things are expensive.
Yeah.
Now, so bringing us back to Harley Benton, right? Harley Benton is not expensive. And the reason for that is they're not using super fancy woods. They're not using exceptional pickups. They're not, they're using basic parts, and basic parts are basic parts. And if you can live with basic parts, great. I could get away. I can tell you right now, I could take a Harley Benton and I could play 50 gigs with it and be totally fine. But that does not mean that the guitar will be totally fine to those 50 gigs. I will probably wear out a pot. I will probably, break a tuner or something. Or a tuner will not hold tune, and I'll have to tune up every song. There's going to be little like annoyances, but it's a functional guitar.
Right.
What more could you get for $190? I mean, that's the price of a pedal nowadays.
Exactly.
So think of it when you think of it from that perspective, that makes you realize like what a value it actually is. Like I can buy a Harley Benton Fusion, or I can buy a Strymon pedal.
Yep.
And when you stop and you look at it from that perspective, like it's not such a bad deal. It's not after all. I mean, so
you are not going to let me forget that I'm buying a Harley.
No, you need to buy a Harley Benton, because those pickups I was winding with Nick, video's not out yet. You'll probably need a P90 equipped guitar to put them in.
They're going to have to go in there.
Yeah, probably. So you might want to get cracking on that.
Exactly.
I'm actually testing, and I'll go ahead and start pimping this out. I'm testing a Great Lakes cable right now. In fact, here's this guy right here. It's on the floor next to me. And this is a pro quality cable. Yep. And it doesn't use no-trick jacks. It uses can't read the logo on here. Rian jacks, but they look great. They look well constructed. The soldering work on here is excellent. I have had zero problems with the cables in terms of tonality or anything, and it's got a silent plug. So
nice.
What more could you ask for? And I don't know what these retail for, but we got one. We're going to give it away. I think I'm actually going to buy this one, and I think I'm going to give a fresh one away to show listeners, not because I want this one, but because I'm abusing it, and I want to make sure that show listeners get a fresh one. So
yeah, good idea.
But you can't go wrong, because he's told me kind of ballpark pricing for these. I think this is a 20-footer or a 25-footer. And like it's really well made. I'm hard pressed not to go back and get more cables from him, to be honest with you. Had like zero issues, and it sounds good. So that's really the litmus test for me. Does it sound good? Is it reliable? Yes. Check. Done. Yep. Buy me 5 of them. Done. And I think he does text flex and all that too if you need it.
Nice.
I guess so. We were talking about my trip out to Rockford area where I played with Dan. we jammed. I had the Kemper with me. Now here's where it gets nuts, right? So I've been making profiles. I've got a set of profiles in the Mark V, and so that includes like clean, a pushed clean, the fat side of the clean channel, a pushed version of the fat side of the clean channel, 3 or 4 of the crunch channel on different settings, and then I've got like profiles of the 2C plus, the Mark IV mode, and then I've got 2 profiles of the extreme mode with different levels of gain. Now I like to run my amp. Most people who run Mesa Boogies, specifically Marks, don't really push the power amp into real saturation. I push mine into saturation. I actually like it to get real gritty and ugly. So my profiles are definitely not going to be for everybody. But we were laughing because I bought the Victory profiles, the Victory Kraken, the whole kit and caboodle, right? It's like $30.
Yep.
It's the first set of profiles I bought for the Kemper. And Rabia Masad actually made these. Okay. So I bought them. I asked in the Kemper group right before I bought them. I said, what do you guys think of them? I saw a couple people say, yeah, they're pretty good. They're a good place to start if you're into high gain stuff. So I bought them. And then I saw the people start showing up that were like, no, they're crap. They're too dark. They must have been recorded with a blanket over the amp. Like all these different things. I'm like, oh, crap. So I bought them. And if you guys recall when we did the first episode where I talked about the Kemper, it has crank revolution profiler, right? And I was using that, the dual rectifier from I think the dual rec was from Synmix or something like that. Because all of the profiles that you get in the Kemper come from the famous like people that are doing paid profiles for the Kemper. So originally the Kemper came loaded with profiles they made themselves, like using cactus microphones and stuff, like crazy weird stuff. Which are still good profiles and they're still available. But they went and they partnered with people like Michael Britt and Tone Junkie and various others, the Amp Factory, and they put this profile pack together that comes preloaded on the Kemper now. And it has, there's some exceptional stuff in there, but so it has some dual racks. It has the Crank Revolution, which I think is actually a Michael Britt profile of all people. And I like that thing because Michael Britt, he's a country player. And he's like a professional country player. He's in a platinum selling band, right? And he's the foremost expert on Kemper profiling. And I was so shocked to see that he had a Crank Revolution in here, and it's one of my favorite profiles that came stock. So I was like looking for other stuff like that because I'm like I never really had metal tones like that. So I started digging around, and that's why I decided to get a Victory profile. So here's what happened. I downloaded him, right? And the first thing I did was like, what am I going to play? The Kraken, right? I want the Kraken. I want Rabia Masad's amp. So the regular Victory Kraken, so it's like a 40 or 50 watt head. When I first started up, I was like, this is dark. I was like, I'm going to have to post-process the crap out of this to make it usable. And so I played around with it. I cranked the treble and the presence, and then I kind of like went A/B between that and the crank, and I went back and forth for an hour or so. And I finally just kind of got fed up, and I said, I wasted my money. I went and I tried a couple of the other profiles that time. I tried the Super Kraken, which was better. The Super Kraken is an amp that they did after the initial run. So there's actually been 2 profile packs. I think they were both $50 a piece, or you can get them both for $30 or something like that. So I bought the all pack. So I'm like $30. I'll just buy them all. It's $30 is not enough to worry about. So then I emailed Victory, and I'm like, you got a problem on your hands. Like these profiles are really dark, and I don't know if you guys have even really listened to them, or if you just like let Rabia make them, and then you offered to sell them. But I'm like, I'm not the only one complaining about how dark they are.
Right.
So that was on a Friday. I lived with them over the weekend. I played around with them some more, like going back and forth, and I found some sounds I really liked, but they were still pretty dark, right? And then I get a message back from the company from Victory on Monday, and they're like, "We've reached out to Rabia. He'll be contacting you shortly." And really? I kind of sat there for a minute, and I went, "What?" And then I looked at my email, and I get an email from Rabia Masad. and I'm like, so first off, I have a moment where I'm like, wait a minute. I had pinched myself, right? And then I went and I actually made coffee because I'm like, I'm gonna come back, and this didn't really happen. Like I'm sleeping or something.
Right.
So I come back and I sit down, and I've got an email from Rabia Masad sitting in my mailbox. So I'm like, okay, and I read it, and he goes, I haven't heard any negative feedback on these patches. Like, he's like, I'm sorry you're having a bad experience. He's like, I'd love to be able to help you, and he was real cool about it. And I responded to him, and I said, okay, I said, here's the thread, right? So I print screened the thread and I sent it to him. And as part of the message, I said, look, I said, I thought they were dark, but I didn't think it was a bad purchase. And I agree. And I don't want my money back. Like when I wrote the email on Friday, I was kind of frustrated. And I mentioned that I would like a refund.
Right.
But I'm like, you know what? I can get away with these. Like they will find use in my toolkits at some point. Like so it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. But I want you to know that like people have been saying they're dark, like you. So I sent him the form. I didn't hear anything back from him. So my assumption is that like he took the criticism and like realized that, maybe they are a bit dark.
Well, one of the things that Rabia Masad, no offense to him as an individual, but fanboys aren't going to say anything to their fan.
Well, he acknowledged when he recorded them. So there's a video on YouTube where he demonstrates them all, and he mentions they were purposely recorded darkly, and it was so that you would have more control over how you want to voice them. But my whole thing is like, I don't really want. So the Kemper has little LED lights on it. Let me count them real quick. It's 14 LED lights for each controller, or actually, it's probably 13 with one in the middle or something. So anyway, I don't want to go over 50% of the way up because it starts to sound processed, because it's like you're adding things that aren't there, right? So fortunately, when I first started messing around with them, comparing them to the Crank, right? The Crank is like this super scooped out metal monster compared to the Kraken. The Kraken is not that amp. It just isn't. Like I listened to some clips, and I was just thinking like it would be like a dual rectifier sort of, but it's not. It's probably closer to a Mark actually. And the other side of the amp is like a JSM 800. So BSMA, all of the profiles when we sat down at Good Time this weekend that we went through sounded really good. So Rabia Masad, I apologize. Like these are actually great. I think you just have to learn how to use them, and there's a pretty weird learning curve there because they're not the same as the way other people do them. So typically, when people make your profiles, they set the amp sounding great, they put the mic in a position that sounds great, and then they hit go. Whereas if you do what he did, like he's giving you more control over actually how to use these and makes them more usable in that sense. So it's just, you got to like weigh the good with the bad. I kind of like the idea of the Kemper being this plug and play, like I just pick a profile, it's going to sound good, I don't have to worry about it kind of thing. So that was my whole situation. But that begs another question. So personalization of gear, right? Talking about what Rob Chapman did with that Harley Benton. That's a big component of guitar playing. And it's that realm of like subjectivity that gets people pissed off at one another because somebody says what you're doing is shit versus what I'm doing. And I've been in trouble for doing that before. And that's part of the reason why I avoid doing it so hard now, because I know like I've used crap, like what everybody else would say was crap, and I was getting good sounds out of it. So I try not to do that to other people. But I'll say this, the Kemper is very much like a real rig in the sense that I can take a Mark V profile from a famous profiler who I purchased from, right? And his profile out of the box sounds like dog shit. But I can go into the settings and I can tighten it up. There's actually a knob for definition, and there's a soft knob for clarity. And I can make it sound like my Mark. And the way I would voice it. So that's testament to, how subjective this stuff really is. Not even just like the Kemper, but like everything in general. It all comes down to to the difference in the way that we hear things and the difference that we expect things to respond. And that all is a summation of either the gear and the experiences that we've been through.
Yep.
So somebody who's played metal gigs for the majority of their playing career is going to have a completely different idea of what they should do than, say, like Rhett Shull, right? Who I was watching one of his videos today, and he was playing through a deluxe reverb with the Strymon mothership in front of him.
Yep.
And I have to say, like, that kind of took me aback this weekend to see somebody else who's really just got a whole different philosophy about gear, and made me feel kind of like selfish and snobby, because I was like, yeah, I have all this stuff, but ultimately I don't need it all. Like, I really don't. It's
Right.
just self-serving, and like, I'm happy. Like, I'm not selling any of my gear. I'm not sitting here going, I've overpaid or anything like that. I just think, like, I could get by for a lot less. I really could.
Mhm.
I'm happy where I am though. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. There's a lot of that. You know, I don't want to use the word attitude because that kind of takes on a negative connotation, but those feelings. Hey.
well, I want to. So after Gear Fest, after going through this insane shopping spree that I went on, which thankfully I didn't go too insane, but because I bought a road case yesterday, right? I bought an SKB, well, Friday. I bought an SKB i3 2510 or something like that, which is it's gonna fit my Kemper, it's gonna fit my Kemper floorboard, it's gonna fit my mission controller. It's the foam, the pick and pull foam, so it'll be really easy to set up. And the reason I did that is I bought a duffel bag to store the Kemper, and I did a video in the group. You can watch it. It's no big deal. And it was fine to carry the Kemper around, but when I had to put the foot controller in it, like, then it wasn't fine, because it was pushing on the knobs through the front of the bag. And if I banged it wrong, like, I was afraid it was gonna break one of the knobs off or something like that. So I decided to go ahead and just pony up. And Brant sent me a text message saying, "Hey, we got this open box demo unit, and it's just the same size as the Pelican you were looking for." So I said, "You know what, Brant, you're a good sales guy. Like, you can have my money." And so
Yeah.
I bought one sight unside. I barely even looked at it. I looked at the dimensions and I looked at the weight. The weight was 5 pounds less than the Pelican, and it's an SKB, so it's guaranteed for life. I was just like, "F it. Like,
Yeah.
just do it." So yeah, that ends basically like the Kemper spree right there, because there's nothing else I need. There really isn't. There's a
Right.
lot of nice to haves, but I'm not even like I'm looking at the Kemper right now and I'm going, I could have another foot controller, like the Mission KP1, but I don't need it. All I need is a wah. Like, I don't need anything else other than that. Um, that would be a nice to have, but I don't even know if that could fit in the thing. You know why I bought the SKB gym? I'm gonna come see you this winter.
No.
That's the
Yeah.
goal. I'm gonna to maybe February, March. Fly down there.
That'd be
I'll fly
nice.
down there. Put it
Yeah.
on the plane.
Fly it
Yeah, because
down.
it'll be my check luggage.
We'll have to do a couple open mics.
We'll have to do something. Dude,
Yeah.
I'm not letting you get away from meeting me. Like, you didn't come to Gear Fest, so now I'm gonna bring the party to you.
Yeah.
Hold my beer.
I definitely wanted to be there. Let me tell you something. Hold my beer. It really ticked me off that I didn't get to come because there were so many things that I wanted to do, and the biggest part for me, it's about people. It's about meeting people,
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
the experience that we have as a group together. And I didn't get to do that. And it sucks. It just sucks that I didn't get to do that.
I was upset. I'm not mad. I wasn't mad at you, but like, circumstances suck.
No.
And
The circumstance was terrible.
yeah, and like that whole situation, it wasn't cool. And like, it's fine. We we're adults. We can still deal with those kind of circumstances. But
Yep.
hopefully we'll get to do something this fall, or I'm, like I said, I'm planning on coming out there sometime in February. But I don't. So music wise, we talked about, we've done this segment before. We talked about what we're listening to right now, and I intended to come to this podcast with like more music stuff. But I'm going to try to tie this back to some of the gear conversation that's been going on in this episode. And I also want to, this is going to be the Kemper Bonanza, because I know there's going to be some other episodes where I'm probably talking a lot about the Kemper because it's basically the only piece of gear I have right now. I mean, that I'm using like frequently, other than my guitars, of course. And so I've been listening to Robin Trauer's, what's the name? It's a live record, one he did in the like 2010, 2011. And I was listening to it today because I was working and I had it on in the background. I actually had a little YouTube window over, so it was playing live, And I gotta say, so I was listening to it and I was just inspired because I'm a big Robin Trower fan anyway, but I was inspired. I was like, can I get those sounds out of the Kemper? So as soon as some progress bars hit and I was having morning coffee, I grabbed my guitar and I started dialing the Kemper. And I got those sounds like pretty quicker than I could have with the Helix for sure. And I've never been that happy with my guitar sound as I was this morning. Just because of the ease of use and then like the accuracy. And I'm not a big guy for tone matching, so that's that should say something. But that, and I listened to the second half of the Live at Montreux from Stevie Ray, which that's an exceptional performance too. But his best DVD, like if you've never watched a Stevie Ray Vaughan performance at all, go get Live at El Macambo. Don't bother with the Live at Montreux. Don't bother with the there's another one too. The Austin City Limits. Go get Live at El Macambo, because his tone and the way he plays on that in a little bitty club will knock your socks off. That was my first Stevie Ray Vaughan experience. Somebody bought that for me and I'd never heard him. And I put that on and I was like, who is this guy? Of course, I'd been playing guitar at that point. Like I'd heard the name, but unless you seek these people out, you're not going to know about it. And I just remember like my horizons instantly went like from like this super narrow, like metal progressive thing to like this gigantic, like arena of like, what the hell else is out there? And so I think that's part of the reason why I have such a soft spot for him. It's because I heard that thing and like, it really opened me up to all kinds of different stuff. Jim, what do you listen to? You had a lot of time in the car, so.
So on the way, I listen to a lot of different things. Musically, I kind of tried to keep myself where I was listening to some Pink Floyd. I listened to some some David Gilmour solo stuff. I listened to a lot of things that were not. How do I say this? They weren't musical as well. I was listening to a lot of political podcasts, a lot of books on tape.
That's fuel, man.
Well, I'll tell you, so the drive was 10 hours up, 10 hours back. That's 20 hours in the car.
Yeah.
That were just, and coming back, I was so lucky. I missed DC traffic. Coming down, watching 95, it looked like a parking lot coming at me. Then I'm going the other way. I'm like, oh, I just shot past that crap. And but it was, it was a matter of me putting on some really like heavy metal, for me, heavy metal. Some Iron Maiden, some Judas Priest, some stuff like that. Going from about Yorktown to Chesapeake, I had to. I'm one of those people that doesn't stop unless it's got to get gas. I had to pee so bad I could taste it, and it tasted just like pee. So I was I was driving as fast as I could, looking for cops, staying with traffic that was moving fast.
Dude,
I gotta get back. Oh my God, I'm gonna explode. Got in the house, poor dog. He wants to go out. I'm like,
you can wait.
Standing in. I'm doing like the beginning. Remember when they brought Austin Powers out of his frozen state?
Right.
I'm standing over there, just oh my God, when will it end?
So you had a bottle,
So, yeah.
and you were squeezing the bottle out, like in Austin Powers. No, I'm kidding. I'm just messing with you.
Oh yeah, terrible. I did bring a bottle.
I did. Everybody like my mocking laughter? That's a question for our show listeners. When he said heavy metal, and then he mentioned like Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I
knew you were going to say that.
Coming back from Gear Fest, we listened to like Mastodon, and I'm trying to think some of the other bands. Like we were listening to some Dwarven metal, and like Kish took over the radio for a little bit. So it was dude, it was destructive. That trip back was something else. But there's some other stuff too. We listened to some blues. Different other stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I just laugh now because like I don't get me wrong, like I love like 80s metal and pre-thrash and thrash metal, but like Iron Maiden is like the tip of the iceberg. It's hard rock to me. Like it's not even in the metal ballpark really. Even I was listening to Alter Bridge the other day. I think it's the first record, the one with can't remember. They're all good, but Alter Bridge deserves like every rock Grammy there is right now.
Blackbird?
Yeah, that one. Broken Wings. All those songs. That record is so good. And that's heavier than Iron Maiden. Like I just had like a realization moment while I was listening to it, and I go, wow, this is actually heavier than Iron Maiden. Like, wait a minute. So when you say that, like, I'm just thinking, like, the hard rock I listen to is heavier than that. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I really like Iron Maiden. I'm still planning on going to see them in September or whatever it is, October. I need to get tickets, but it's lawn, so it's easy to get tickets. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, right now, like musically, I'm working on so much of just like trying to work on phrasing. And that is the one thing that still eludes me to this day. Because I got back from Gear Fest playing with Nick and the guys, and it became apparent to me that like I don't know when to not play. I play like I talk, which if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know that I don't shut up. And so when you play like that, it becomes very irritating. And I'm getting better at it. And the way I'm doing it is like really unorthodox. One of the ways that I do it is I try to play lines in between breathing. So just like a sax player, like I'll breathe out, I'll exhale, and then I'll play a line while I'm exhaling. And then when I stop, then I stop. You know, I stop breathing, then I stop. Like when I stop to inhale, then I'll stop. And that forces you to put that pause in there. And you'll also think about things like start the phrase on the same note I end on. So that way you know that you have to actually stop it.
You know, there's a lot to be said about leaving silence. But when you say you're leaving silence, are you talking about a second of silence? Or are you talking about
like a
moment
where when you play music and you just like when we speak, right? We put a period at the end of a sentence when we speak by taking that pause.
Right.
I'm putting more period. I'm putting more punctuation in my music. Basically what it is. And I'm trying to be conscious of the fact that like it's really easy for me to solo through a bunch of chord changes and just play continuously. That's dangerous. I mean, that's the kind of thing that gets your playing license revoked.
Well, yeah, the playing police will pull you over for doing too much.
I'm sorry, sir. I can do it. I mean, that's
there's too many notes per second. We're gonna have to pull your license. You're gonna have to go to a class in shutting the fuck up. No, I mean, I think it's easier for me because I stop and I think about, just like when I speak, you hear me oftentimes stop to think about what is it that I want to say in this moment. What word would better express the feeling or the the thing that I want to say. I can't even come up with a word right now for that. But like, how can I say,
Music,
this, whatever this is,
music,
musically?
music for you is a conscious decision. Okay,
Right. It is.
and for me, I can legitimately say, and this is like probably one of the biggest moments we've had on this show for me as a person. Music is totally subconscious for me. It is my subconscious speaking. It is not my consciousness speaking. And my consciousness, all it tries to do is ride the bull. And like the subconscious is going to do what it wants, which is let muscle memory take over, like go with the music. I do use my ears actively to follow along with what's going on because I play through chord changes, but I don't. The way in which I play is very much like visceral, and as I said, it's like trying to put a saddle on a bull and ride it as somebody waves a red flag in front of it. And so if you're not good, you're gonna get bucked off real quick. Um, and I think that most of my development in music is trying to tame that bull, and I think that's like a very poignant thing we've arrived at. I feel like I'm in therapy right now. Like that's what this feels like to me, Jim. It feels like I've had this like big discovery moment because I'd never really boiled it down to that. I don't think about what I do before I do it, except in very broad general terms. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like I'm going to play this lead line here or I'm going to do this here. It's more like okay, so for these 4 bars, I'm going to do this thing that starts off this way and ends this way, and I'm not going to have any real say about what really happens, other than I
Right.
know it needs to be quiet in the front, and then slowly raise up, and then staccato, and then loud. You know what I mean? Like that. That's the way that I look at it. It's a very like informal thing. Whereas I know a lot of people when they write a melody line, they sing the melody line before they play it,
Yep.
and that's
And you can, in my head, that's what I'm doing. And you can literally watch my mouth move and see what I'm singing as I'm going. And so it's it's crazy. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, my wife laughs. I'm probably getting bad echo because I'm back from the microphone. Apologize. My wife laughs because I play with the headphones on the Kemper. I put the Kemper on my coffee table. That is one of the coolest. By the way, the Kemper. I know people think it's like ugly or it doesn't look like a guitar amp. That's fine because it will actually sit on your coffee table and it doesn't look ugly. So I plug my Kemper in, I set it on the coffee table, and I put my headphones on. And my wife just starts cracking up. Like I'm sitting there playing. I played for like 3 hours. She's sitting in the chair next to me, and she just starts cracking up. And I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" And she looks at me and she says, "You're making noises when you play." And I said, "What kind of noises?" She's like, "You're grunting and you're moaning and like not moaning, but like sighing and like breathing strangely and all this." And it's like, I'm sure I do. I mean, I don't think it's funny, but that's just you're doing a physical thing. Like, what do you expect? I would get banned from the fitness place. You know, for the was it the Planet Fatness where they don't allow
Yeah.
people to grunt or whatever.
No, you can grunt. You just can't call people names.
Oh
You can't say, "Hey, fatty."
well, I can't be there. I
Yeah.
can't. I
Well,
have to be hard on myself. Come on,
that's.
I'm
I
gonna get
mean,
kicked out of my
I'm
temple.
usually hard on myself. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. No, I think that's I think it goes with being a musician though. Like I
Yeah.
think self-deprecation is really with any artist, performance artist, like you have to have that third eye that can see yourself, so that you can like critique yourself and get better or worse. I'm fortunate, as we saw in the last episode, I have very many critical people whose opinions around me I actually trust and
Right.
who have never let me down, like in terms of, saying something awful to me just to make me mad or any of that. They've always been very honest with me about my work. So it's helped me develop as a player. It's my safe space.
We don't talk about safe spaces here.
Yeah, no, yeah, not that kind of safe space. There are guns in my safe space. Just saying, there are these guns, and there are other guns too. Yeah, those. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like,
I think it's important to learn that when you're playing, there's so many things to think about when it comes to the realization that you absolutely need to leave space in anything. So I don't know. I don't know how to express that any other way except
I
if you're
think
gonna
it depends on context too. So, if you're in a 3-piece, you don't have to leave as much space.
right. As a matter of fact, you're kind of in the opposite predicament. And I think what happens is a lot of people like yourself, they grow up in the Hendrix slash Stevie Ray Vaughan
post
thing,
that
and
stuff.
yeah, and those guys were
Small band.
They were definitely 3-piece. The bass player had to play chords during the time that the lead player is doing their thing. It's kind of I don't know.
Yeah, well, so the only
means.
difference, that's a good segue because I think we've got another topic for this episode. So, Jimmy did the band of Gypsies, right? And then there was like, I don't know how many guys were on stage during that band. It seemed like there was like 9 dudes playing with him. And his playing kind of morphed. That was Machine Gun, that kind of stuff. And that was the last record, which was the live record. And it was very clear that he had to adapt his style to that. And if you listen to that era, listen to The Who, right? Because The Who's only a 4-piece, right? But vocals are really their own thing. I don't really like count them in the piece of a band. And if you pay attention, like John Entwistle works overtime in that band. For any time that like Pete Townsend is just like wailing away and do the windmill thing and being the rock god that he is. John Entwistle's back in the corner like overplaying like super hard to make up for it. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find a 3-piece, and I know of one where nobody really had to go over the top. Like they were all kind of like really restrained with their playing. And the one I'm thinking of is the Police. They knew how to build space into their music, even as a 3-piece, which is something that I have not seen any other 3-piece or 4-piece bands do. Because there's enough sonic space to fill it up. I think genre has a lot to do with that too. If you're gonna play metal, it's okay to not have as many pauses in your lead sections. That's kind of a more classical orientation. If you're gonna play jazz, you can have a lot longer phrases. That's for sure. I think shorter phrases appeal to the human mind a little bit better, but for sure, like pop jazz is filled with 8 bars of just like random wailing. And I know it's not random, but that's what it sounds like to the listener. You know, so to stop and think about like bands like I'm trying to think of like some good examples of bands that were huge. Chicago's probably the classic example. Terry Kath like had some really, really standout moments, but for the most part, like he's underplaying a lot of that stuff. And he's a much better player than you would think he would have been.
Yeah.
And that's that's the genius of like being in a big group like that. Although I will say this, the people I do know who played in big groups like that, like they talk about like being on their phone while they're on stage and like crazy stuff like that, or like having a beer while the song's going on, because they can get away with it. There's nothing going on. Like there might be 8 bars where they're not doing anything, like literally nothing. I've never had that experience where I just stand there on stage, which is I'm fortunate because I think I think guitar is one of those instruments that isn't that way, you know. You usually are doing something, even if it's just comping. Um, but like keyboard players, it happens where you've got like 8 bars or 16 bars where you're just sitting there like spacing out. Um, that's why you hear about them missing cues and stuff. Like guitar players, I not many that I know miss cues because
Right.
you can't. I mean, like you're constantly busy. You have 2 cues in the song, the first and the end. You know, like I don't know. Maybe you have a different take on that because you've played with a lot of other people and stuff. But it always seems like we're less accident prone because we have to be on the ball.
I can tell you right now, I've missed cues. I've missed solos. 9 times out of 10, it's because the gosh darn guitar player or singer starts singing over me.
Oh yeah, I just
Um,
turn up.
and
You'll know when I'm about to play a guitar solo and I've got a singer because I'll be back by the amp.
it's like, okay, but I was supposed to play here, you know, and it's scripted. I mean, it's not like they're coming in with something that wasn't there from the beginning. Scripted.
It's you know what, and it's not really me trying to be like a jerk and doing territorial pissing or anything, but it's me being like a reminder. Hey, this isn't the you show. Please don't tread on me. Like, remember that this is a band.
Yeah.
This is not about you. Check your
Right.
ego at the door. And so that's a whole other thing too, because egos, like we talked about on the show before, dealing with people with egos, and there are a lot of them in our business, is just psychotic. And for whatever reason, they always seem to be guitar players or singers. And I don't know why that is.
Yep.
I don't know whether those people just get into being those two professions because they're at the front. I'm the guitar player that doesn't really care if I'm standing out front. Like I will, and I
You know which
understand
one's
that
worse?
role, but I don't care if I am.
You know which one's worse? The guitar players that are singers.
Yeah, I've seen them too.
Or,
And usually they can't play and sing. They're good at one or the other. And then you're like, what are you doing here? And why is your ego so big? You're not good at both. Stop it. And you don't carry the
Yep.
band because you play
Nope.
drums. You play bass. No, you don't. Shut up. Like I just drives me nuts. I want to see consensus decisions. And you've seen bands. I know everyone in this group and who listens to this podcast has seen a band at some point where you can tell one of the members on stage has a head that's bigger than everybody else.
Yep. Oh, there's always one person in the band that has the biggest ego.
Yeah. I know you can't escape ego too. Like ego is partially like the creative side of you being assertive. But at the same time, like real ego is you think you are bigger than whatever it is you're doing. And
Yep.
let's face it, how many people have you met in your life? And I'm sure you've met people, me or otherwise, or any of our listeners, whatever, who have been like, I got to open for so and so, and like that was a really cool experience. That's how you know they have an ego is when they start out with I played with so and so. It's not, I play in this band and like, I play with, and then they list the members. It's like I played on stage with, and it's like, well, what band are you in? That's the next question. If you have to ask that question the second time, like, uh-oh.
Right.
This is a problem. But fortunately, I've never really dealt with people with like an ego problem. So not like in one of my playing situations. It's like the point where I'm just like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Hire somebody else.
Yep.
Because honestly, that would be my attitude about it. I just don't have time for that kind of crap. And like the situations I do have where I'm usually playing with friends, or like I'm in a friend's band or something. That's a little bit different because it's not just about me. Like it's about helping somebody out or being their friend and all these other components that are social in nature. If I'm doing it and you're paying me to play like solos and stuff for you, or you're paying me to learn the material or whatever, and then like I'm getting gig money from it, and you tell me to do something that I think is a bad idea, I'm gonna tell you no. Like it's not my ego coming out. It's look, I've got a lot of experience doing this, and if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And I don't care whether it makes you look good or not. Like, this isn't about whether you look good or not. Is this a solo act with another? Is this Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers? You know what I mean? Like, no, it's usually not. It's usually some full band.
Exactly. And that gets to be, like you said, it gets to be a problem. It gets to be a problem with when the egos start to clash.
Well, I mean, at our level, if you have an ego, like, get over yourself. Look around. You're playing at a bar. You know what I mean? Like, what are you on? Even if you're playing at like the festival level, like, listen, you don't have roadies, you don't have a crew, your crew might be your buddies, right? That you pay with beer. That's my point. It's like, until you're doing this to the point where people are depending on you doing it, you have no right to act like that. Zero. You have to mean something before that happens.
Yeah.
So,
and that's
I don't even think when you get to that level, you're usually wise enough because you've been through enough. You're not going to have an ego. Like, you're going to look at the situation and go, if I have an ego now, I'm just going to create problems for myself. Now, obviously, your rare exceptions, your Diamond Daves and your Eddie Van Halens. And I use both of them because both of them have huge egos.
And it's hard to get over. It's hard for everybody.
Sure.
And then what happens to the band? The band has to live on.
Yeah, look at Eddie Van Halen. They can't even sleep in the same building.
Oh, I know. Ridiculous. It really is.
Oh, have you heard the latest rumors?
No.
Van Halen's cancer may be back.
Ooh.
And
that sucks.
So there was a picture that surfaced a couple weeks ago of him with his motorcycle, but he's got this weird hat on, and it looks like he's bald. And people are thinking they're going chemotherapy right now. They did cancel some tour dates, so very good chance. If that happens, that's a big deal for guitar players, whether you're a Van Halen fan or not. Like, if you're not a Van Halen fan, first off, maybe you should just reconsider playing guitar, because he's, there's few people that you can put on the level with Jimi Hendrix in terms of the amount of influence they've had on the instrument, and he's one of them. Like, whether you like him or not, you got to accept that a lot of the things you do today, you do because he did them.
Right.
Anybody who puts humbuckers and strats, those kinds of things. I know other people were doing it first, but nobody was doing it in mass until he did it. So,
yeah, it's a big thing. It's a lot of people don't. They look at the older. Oh, that's old music. That's. I don't care about that, or I don't listen to Van Halen. But they don't think about how many of the things that Eddie may not have invented, like you said,
popularized.
Right, he made it so that other people wanted to do it.
Yeah,
and that's you can't get outside.
There's a thing called secondhand witnessing. This idea that, like, let's say now my parents aren't, but let's say my parents were in the Holocaust, right? And then they raised me, and some of their ideals that they took away from the Holocaust would be impressed upon me. That's secondhand witnessing. It happens in guitar playing all the time. Like, do you really think that I play like Albert King, or do I play like Stevie Ray? You know what I mean? Like, it's their influences bleed down. And so,
correct.
Eddie Van Halen, you may not like him, but you might like Mark Tremonti, and I can guarantee you that Mark Tremonti plays a lot of Eddie Van Halen. Like, I'm just saying, like, that's the way it works. It's a trickle down thing.
Yep.
And so, don't act like you're devoid of influence from these people. That's just not realistic. So, I hope that if he is sick, I hope I send him good vibes. I hope that he gets some psychological help. I think he's got some severe psychological issues as well. That's my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
Based on interviews with him and behaviors and things that I've seen.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's related to his current medical condition. I think that, I wish that him and David Lee Roth could bury the hatchet with one another and finally accept that, they were both integral to that band. And so the band cannot function without them.
Right. Right. That's one of those things. It's just like I'm not a huge fan of the Rolling Stones, but when people talk about the Rolling Stones, they talk about one person or another. And the fact is that the Rolling Stones were not a great band without Keith and Mick.
Does anybody remember Keith Richards' solo material?
Right, exactly.
Does anybody remember Mick Jagger's solo material? There was a lot of it too.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's just
funny thing. So the 5E3 Deluxe, which is kind of popularized by Rolling Stones. I think of Start Me Up when I hear that, right?
Yep.
The Kemper, when we played it at Gear Fest and I decided to buy it, I rolled up the 5E3 Deluxe and I played Start Me Up. And I was like, sold, because it sounded identical. With a Les Paul of all things. So, yeah, just playing things back together, making this Kemper song.
Yeah. Well, with that,
do you think it's been that?
Yeah, with that,
I've been David.
I think it's been that. I've been Jim.
I've been David.
I've been Jim.
I've been.
We've been some weirdly.
I think we need to start drinking on the show or something. Like, we need to spice it up a little bit.
I don't know. I think
me drinking would be scary on the show, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you even? You don't even drink. So that would be
that's never going to happen. That would be a good excuse for me to find the bathroom during the middle of the show and puke.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, geez, yeah. No, we don't need that. We don't need you pulling a. Can we spoil? Endgame, Avengers Endgame?
Yeah, we can spoil whatever we want. I don't care.
Yeah, we don't need a Lebowski thing going on there. You becoming Thor.
No.
They actually have a pop for that. Do you know that?
I believe it.
Those popular. I say popular. I say
the pop, Funko Pop.
But those popular Funko things. Yeah.
Yeah. They got sued by Gibson.
I know.
Bringing it back around. I've been David.
I've been
Jim.
Again,
we've been the Practical Guitarists this week.